What do I say to start this?
Welcome.
Welcome to the Rewatchers on the Pod, the podcast where we watch stuff. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
And this week, we are continuing our quest with the Coen brothers, and we watched The Big Lebowski. And if you didn't have time to watch The Big Lebowski, the only Tyler McKinley has written a comprehensive summary I'm going to read as fastly as I can, as quickly as I can, fastly.
Thought there was going to be a joke in there.
No. But here we go. Here's everything that happened in The Big Lebowski. Sometimes there's a man, and the dude is the man for the 90s. The collectors pee on the rug, then they realize they have the wrong Lebowski. The man and me will watch these opening credits. Donnie is out of his element. How the hell does the dude afford to live in Los Angeles, let alone $1,000 blowjobs? Walter is the only one who gives a shit about the rules. Benny has been kidnapped, and the Lebowskis team up to finger the rug pissers. Jeez, that's what a sentence. Nobody fucks with the Jesus. An exchange of dirty endings is made. Julianne Moore is Lebowski Jr. and wants the dude to retrieve the money. Walter can get you a tow by 3 this afternoon with nail polish. The Red Hot Chili Peppers break into the dude's private residence. The dude comes face to face with Sam Elliott as a man speaketh to a man. The Louisiana Purchase provides its most useful contribution to society. This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. Gutterballs, a 10 out of 10 skin flick. Maud receives the sperm from the dude. The Jew kicks the living shit out of the Germans, and Donnie's heart can't take it. The best part of waking up is Donnie's ashes in your cup. The dude abides. There we go. That's everything that happened. Oh, man. So, Justin, Gwen, you had not seen this movie.
Correct.
All right. What did you think of this movie?
This one was a lot easier on my soul than Fargo was.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's fair.
I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Good. Justin, what were kind of your initial impressions of?
I was just like, I just smiled the entire time I was watching the movie, but I don't really know, like, I don't know why I loved it so much, because I'm having a hard time figuring out, like, what happened. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I loved this movie, but I can't tell you exactly why I loved it so much.
Yeah. I remember, like, my initial feeling after seeing this movie the first time was, like, perplexed. Like, I was like, that is, first of all, not at all what I expected. Also, like, you know, my experience with Coen Brothers movies up to that point had been like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou and like Miller's Crossing and stuff, you know, and so I was expecting something much more that tone, like narratively, and this is just so different. But I did want to read, there's a quote from an interview with Joel Coen where he had talked about how this was loosely inspired by like Raymond Chandler's stories. He said, "We wanted to do a Chandler kind of story, how it moves episodically and deals with the characters trying to unravel a mystery, as well as having a hopelessly complex plot that's ultimately unimportant." Which, that made me feel much better about my own feelings after watching the movie for the first time. But that being said, people have sure found a lot of like meaning in it and like weird other, you know, like there's so many weird fan theories and awesome shit like that. But let's talk about the characters in this. Probably some of my favorite characters in any Coen Brothers movie, I think. The dude. Man. The dude is the best. Like, I just love the dude so much.
It's like chronically chill.
Yeah. Maybe like one of my favorite like intros to a character that we get to, just like this voiceover as you just see him like getting groceries, like
sniffing the milk in the store.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so good. But yeah, I think I think like going back to what Justin said, like the fact that you're just smiling, enjoying the movie the whole time, like every scene in this movie is fun to watch, and I think part of that is just because you think that this might be the scene that ties things together, but it doesn't ever, and they're just always interesting. Yeah, these just getting these characters on screen at the same time, I think, is like the pure joy of the Big Lebowski. But yeah, Tyler, you've seen this multiple times before, right?
Yeah, my first time seeing it was in high school. I had to do a music video for a class, and I didn't have a way to edit a music video together, so I was at my brother-in-law's on his iMac that had no business editing together footage. It was too old. But I was trying anyway, and we watched The Big Lebowski while I was doing that, so I didn't really absorb it as much as I probably needed to. But I remember laughing occasionally, and then I don't think I actually like really watched it until 4 years later, probably.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm trying to remember because I don't know, because I don't know what my reactions were at that time. I remember liking it. I remember not understanding it the way the rest of the internet understands it.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the big standout is just the characters and the wacky scenarios that each sort of, I wouldn't say vignette, but yeah, like you mentioned, like different chapters provide.
Yeah.
Those were all very enjoyable. Something I noticed a lot more this time. I realized it before, but like caught more of them this time was how much the dude throughout the film just takes things other people have said and injects them as his like own. Like I for some reason I just never caught the George Bush Sr. one at the beginning where it's like, this aggression will not stand.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. God. Yeah, there is so much. It's funny because like this movie feels like in many ways feels timeless, like it could be whenever, but there's also just so many things that are like, no, this is 1991. Like it is. There's Saddam Hussein in this movie. There's like that opening thing about the Gulf War. Like it's so interesting, and but seemingly, like he stated in that quote, seemingly the rest of the plot doesn't necessarily connect to those things, but it's also important to like be there. I don't know. It's such an interesting thing. It's one of those things that like reminds me of the way sometimes when I'm thinking about a David Lynch movie is like, these things aren't all going to connect, but they're all important to make me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And so in that way, I wonder, as time goes on, how are those pieces, specifically the Saddam Hussein thing with the bowling shoes and that like stuff that sets it firmly in the 90s, how is that going to affect viewers who see it in 20 years or 30 years or whatever?
Like when my kids watch it, they're not going to know who Saddam Hussein is.
Yeah.
They might know who Richard Nixon is, but...
Yeah, that painting of Richard Nixon that he has, that... It catches me off guard every time I see this movie.
It's like you stay on it for a long time, too. Like you just stay there.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And he doesn't seem like the type who'd be a fan of, Dick,
right.
But there we are, right in his wall.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't steal that. They came to get the rug.
Some value. Yeah, but yeah.
Just real quick, yeah. I had a thought. Like I was... Because we had kind of talked previously about like the theories that exist on the internet and like extensive, I guess, because I haven't gone looking yet. I haven't looked anything up yet. Extensive theories about what this movie is, or like I don't know, like the extended universe. I'm guessing right now, but so like that was kind of in my head as we were watching this, and so I'm like,
what's your theory?
Well, I don't have one. Is the thing. Like the whole time, I'm just thinking like people have come up with this grander idea about what this movie is or what it represents, and so I'm like think that's in my brain as I'm watching this movie, like trying to analyze like what is this about, and like the stuff that puts it in the 90s. Like we get to the end and John Goodman's character says something about, or no, not John, he's like at the where they're throwing the ashes into the ocean or trying to, his eulogy talks about like the people he knew in Vietnam, and then like Jeff Bridges is like, what the fuck does any of this have to do with Vietnam? And so I was like, that's it. Maybe that's what this is. Like, this is some sort of like critique about the Vietnam War. That was my thought maybe, but then that didn't really go anywhere once I started fleshing it out. And then the whole thing with like, I'm jumping way ahead to like the end of this movie, just critiquing everything at this point. But like the fight that they get in with the nihilists, like thinking that this is like this meta critique of like people who, because like I've used the words nihilism to describe the Coen Brothers movies before, and so like I was thinking like maybe that's what this is kind of about. Like they go and, I mean, fucking Flea gets a bowling ball caved into his chest at one point. Like the nihilists end up getting their asses kicked. Like maybe it's like a we know what our audience thinks about us kind of thing, and which a lot of the Coen Brothers movies are anyways. So like sort of this like meta thing about like you think we're nihilists about the way we view that's what you think about us. So this is what we think about you thinking about us that way. So like that was what I was going with. Yeah. There's a lot that I was jumping all over the place with this, so I'm very interested to hear like what people think about this. Like,
if they ever confirmed the big theory about it?
No, I don't think so.
Because I can definitely see it.
Yeah, well, because there's actually multiple that I can see. But you know about a couple. Do you want to talk to us about?
I mean,
you
know them better than I do. I honestly haven't done too much research. Yeah.
So one that I've been thinking about a lot lately is the idea that all the characters are in Big Lebowski are characters you would find in very specific genres of other movies. You have the stranger, who is like this quintessential Western, the Sam Elliott character. You have John Goodman, who is possibly a Vietnam vet who is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. You have kind of what's the real Lebowski's name? The other Lebowski, the rich Lebowski's name.
I don't know his first name.
I can't remember. But you have him who's like, it's kind of this like old Hollywood kind of like crime syndicate feeling thing. Mm-hmm. And then you have Donnie, who is not a character in any movie, and that's why characters are always so upset with him that he's out of his depth. There's all this weird shit about Donnie because Donnie is like the weirdest character because he's like totally fine and just everyone is always like very aggressive towards him in weird ways. So there's that. There's also the idea that that each of the characters represents a world religion or ideology.
Okay.
With the dude being
that's
Buddhism.
The one I know. Okay, that's the only one I know about.
I feel like this is the most like the one that's proliferated through internet communities the most. You have
dude is Buddhist.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've only read some of the characters. Some of the characters I've never heard a thing of. But I kind of have put going off that theory, I've kind of been like, Sam Elliott is God.
Sure.
And there were some that I was like, I wonder, like, this has to be someone. Like, I'm trying to remember who I was thinking of. And I can't remember who it is. I'm not sure who the rich Lebowski would symbolize.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I thought of if the dude is Buddhism, there's kind of two versions of Buddhism. I don't know if that was I don't recognize any characteristics of like the Big Lebowski being like the original India Buddhism versus like China Buddhism. Right. But also like the Malibu Sheriff. I don't know if he's big enough to warrant a thing. Yeah, I feel like there's one other one that I just can think of, like either maybe the kid that they break his car. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
definitely in the main. I mean, and John Goodman, obviously the this American Christianity kind of thing, and
I read. I actually heard that. The take I read was that he is more of the American Jewish, capitalistic.
Oh, interesting. I guess
like Jewish structure, and then like the Donnie's atheist, and and then the Jesus was the Catholic Church,
right?
Because of the pedophile stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, anytime I see it, that's one of those things where it's like this character's name is Jesus. It's not Jesus, it's Jesus. And like anytime stuff like that comes up, I'm like, what are we trying to say about religion here? And I could not figure that out. So I'm glad you pointed it out, because that, looking back on it now, that seems pretty obvious.
I mean, nobody
So
fucks with the Jesus.
I mean, I didn't notice any of this until I went online. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like the biggest thing too, just to mention about this movie, and we've talked about the quote, and obviously all these fan theories don't rotate around any idea of a plot. It is these like who are these characters, and that obviously, like, I think is the strength of this movie is those characters, and like we talked about with Fargo, like the dialogue in this movie is fucking sharp and like so good. And even just like what Tyler mentioned, kind of like the dude like subtly taking and incorporating all of the things around him into his own dialogue is fascinating.
I do like to, I mean, this is kind of a Coen Brothers strength of theirs, but like their comedic bits aren't like a lot of comedy where it's like the hold for laugh type thing, and it's not delivered in that way. A lot of throwaway, really quick, like, apparently you're not a golfer, like stuff like that, and then it's immediately on, like, just going.
I do want to talk about, let's just talk about some of the characters, because I think there are a lot of like smaller characters in this. Brandt,
Yeah,
is that Philip Seymour Hoffman's character? Probably my favorite moment in this entire movie is when the dude meets Mrs. Lebowski, and she offers to give him a blowjob, and she's like, "Bran will have to pay to watch," and like just that face he makes is like, oh, like it's just one of the funniest things to me. Like that whole section is like so hilarious, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's energy through that entire thing is just the absolute best.
I loved him picking up her discarded clothes as she's like frolicking in the background.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh man. But yeah, there's so many, like you're saying, there's just so many like little bits that are so fucking hilarious, and like even, you know, you go back to the very opening scene of this movie when the dude comes home and is just fucking dunked in his own toilet for a few minutes, and like, I don't know, this movie feels like really manic and insane, but I don't know, it's just,
I mean, structurally it's a
fun.
little weird, because I mean, in a good way, I think that like the first act is literally more so the voiceover introduction, and I mean technically that's part of the first act, but then you have the inciting incident just immediately.
Yeah.
And then right into the call of action, and then we're off. Like, and then the second act is just nonsense. Like, that's the best part about it. And I don't know. I just feel like there's so much to talk about just on those little bits. Like, there's that, I don't know. Those are the moments, like, when I talk about this movie that stick out to me. Like, everything from like him nailing the board into his fucking floor, and the door opens the other way, and then he trips on it later. Like, just so many like little things like that are so funny.
Yeah.
Just weird, like, and then like weird characters like the Malibu sheriff who just fucking lose, chucks the thing at him, and it's the dude is like way more chill with people who are outright like trying to hurt him than he is with his best friend Walter.
Yeah. Well, just Walter. I mean, Walter's whole energy throughout this movie is just fucking chaotic. Like the whole thing with the car where they're driving it and they're like gonna jump out and throw the thing over the bridge or whatever. Like, is just such an insane scene that is like no person in their right mind would think this is the way to do this. But man, it's so good. There's also like the whole dream sequence in this that we've kind of talked about is like with Saddam Hussein behind a counter giving him bowling shoes, and like these this very like, I don't know, like Vegas feeling like dance number, which is just insane. And I think for a long time was the only like clips of this movie I'd seen were like him like with the bowling ball like dancing and then like floating over the sky like through the air. Like all that stuff I think is so good. And it adds these really like surreal elements that you get in Coen Brothers movies sometimes. I think specifically of stuff like A Serious Man has like some very like surreal storytelling and imagery in it. And this just like this full on dream dance number that is just amazing. But yeah, were there any characters that stuck out to you, Justin and Gwen, coming on your first time through, like that you found yourself more intrigued by than others? Or
I kept waiting for Donnie to come through as like an actor in the plot, but since there's not really a plot, he never yeah. And especially after having just watched Fargo, like I was ready. I was ready for this character, and nothing.
Yeah.
Until he died.
I mean, even if you were an actor and you just had Steve Buscemi's character from Big Lebowski and his character from Fargo on your resume, that's like, you're like mostly done with your job as an actor at that point. I feel like holy shit, man. It's so good. So good.
We haven't really talked about Maude very much as a character.
Yes, let's talk about Maude.
I'm curious to hear kind of like what your take is on Maude.
I was very inspired by her flying vagina art.
That's such a great...
Yeah, that introduction to her is really good.
It's like kind of shot like a horror movie too. Like it's so dark, and then just this thing just flying over him. Like it's such a bizarre scene.
The thing about the dude in these circumstances is like I'm trying to like envision like how would I react if I were introduced to somebody that way. Like it's crazy because like I don't know how I would behave in that circumstance, and he like has the like he's so laid back about things, and yet he still seems like he kind of knows what he wants to do and still has this sort of sense of like purpose too, which comes across even though he's not great at like getting that done. It's kind of an interesting thing because we think of his character as like this laid back, like kind of how he's described in the film of like as a nobody, doesn't have a job, whatever. But like he's still like pushing things forward and like trying to get stuff done too in all of these different scenarios that he ends up in, which I think is kind of an interesting dichotomy of what his character is, but also like what he's capable of doing too. He seems capable, even though he doesn't have that reputation in the movie.
Yeah. I think it's definitely one of those things where it's like he feels capable and he would if he wanted to. Yeah. But he doesn't want to. Like
he gets the rug at the begining, like that, he just pulls that out. Like told me I could take anyone out of the house or whatever one I wanted.
Yeah. There's another like theory that I read when I was looking stuff up for this was that the dude is the real Lebowski's like illegitimate son. And that's where his money comes from, is that he had paid off the dude's mom however long ago. So the dude is basically just living off this huge trust. And the idea that he never confronts his dad because he just also doesn't care. Like he's,
until the rug thing happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which
would make Maude his half-sister?
I guess there's also like a bunch of weird Maude theories. I'm gonna see if I can find some because there are a bunch of like there's like theories that that Maude is the actual Lebowski, that she is like the one that is actually pulling all the strings and is I'm trying to remember. There were some other ones. Let me see if I can find some
because she knows the German dudes who pulled the thing.
Yeah. Let's see. But yeah, I mean,
who's the actor that? Who's the guy that was with her in the scene where Jeff Bridges goes?
Lupin, the guy who plays Lupin.
Was that who that was? That's who I thought.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Giggly mustache.
Yeah. I couldn't remember where I had seen him, but man, that was just the energy that comes from that whole interaction is just wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the character I was thinking of that I was like I couldn't place like what he represented was Jackie Treehorn.
Oh.
Because I feel like he's such a purposeful character in this movie that is introduced in such a weird way and then just is there for one sequence then gone.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It felt. I don't know what he is or what he represents.
Yeah, one of the other
Pagan sex
theories
rights.
that I just found that I'd forgotten about was that Donnie is just the voice of the audience in the movie, and like that's why, you know, going back to the idea of like you were talking about with the Coen brothers, if it is this meta thing of like people being like, man, what does it mean? And there's like fucking out of your element,
Yeah.
Donnie. Like, I think that's really
So
great.
we're the
too.
characters that the Coen brothers hate.
Exactly.
In this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. The Coen brothers like their characters. They just hate us.
Give us a heart attack. In a parking lot.
Let's see. Oh yeah, it's not this. The mod thing is that she is the real Big Lebowski, essentially. Basically for those reasons that you already said. It's not. I thought there was more to it, but it's mainly just that. So, which I do think is interesting. And I think is a cool like idea.
One of my favorite things was after how threatening the trio of Germans or fake Germans. Were they real Germans or were they fake Germans? I couldn't.
I think they're
figure
supposed
out.
to be real
Okay.
Yeah,
Germans.
I think so.
The Germans, how like scary and threatening they were, how bad they were at fighting, and he just pulls out this fucking decorative sword and like waves it like my son waving his cardboard whatever. Like,
Yeah.
And immediately drops it as
Yeah.
soon as
good.
it gets an actual confrontation.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Do directors in Hollywood just be like, let's see what Flea's doing? Or does Flea approach them?
I don't know. I think they do be like. Here's the thing. I think like especially. I don't know if it's just because like the Red Hot Chili Peppers were like in LA at that time, you know, and like everyone went to the Largo to see all that shit. And there's like, I feel like the Largo is like this huge cross section of like comedians and filmmakers and musicians that, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just got to be friends with people and they're like, you're weird and you should be in this movie. I don't know.
I mean, those are some very different directors that
Yeah.
have him in their films. So it's weird to think that like they're all just friends with Flea.
Yeah,
And if they're friends with each other at all.
I guess. Yeah.
I just don't see Spielberg and the Coen brothers like really hitting it off.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But yeah, it's still shocking to me how many things Flea has been in,
Yeah.
and just yeah, it's crazy. Let's see.
How did they make Lee? I mean, I guess that's just another thing that doesn't fucking matter. But like, you get the message on the machine and everything about like, hey, you broke a lot of rules by pulling a gun during league play, but somehow they still made the finals.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I don't know.
he never called back to talk it out with them, so they were just like, oh well, I guess they can still play.
The tinfoil hat theory that's connected to Big Lebowski is that it predicted 9/11.
Oh,
Because when the dude is writing the check at the beginning for 69 cents to pay for the milk, the date on the check is September 11th. And then the next scene that they got to is that speech from George Bush talking about like how this aggression will not stand.
I mean, I like a good tinfoil hat
love it,
theory,
yeah, I
but
love it.
that one's a little bit of a stretch.
I mean, that one's I think it's pretty fun.
Coen brothers are in cahoots with
Yeah.
the Bushes and
Yeah, part of the global elite, these Coen
fucking
brothers.
hate Saddam.
But yeah, I just, this movie is one of those that's like, it's like really comforting because it does feel in a way like, if we want to go back to the dude being a Buddhist, like this does feel like a movie to teach you to let go of needing to know everything that's going on and just ride through the movie with it. And it's so I don't know, it's just so good. Like, I think the pace and the editing, we already talked about how weird the structure is, but it just works. Like, it doesn't feel difficult in the way that some movies that fuck with structure feel difficult, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's just a testament to like the writing prowess of the Coen brothers and obviously the performances and characters that they create, which are just fucking insane and wonderful.
I went and looked at the Church of Latter-day Dudes website after watching. It's interesting. They've got about a 250,000 ordained priests apparently.
Yeah,
I was like this close. Maybe I should do it.
I have a friend who is an ordained minister. He's what do they call them? They're like high
Druggies?
dudes, or I don't know. But he's like an ordained minister. But the title they give in the church is like Dudist priests, or I don't know. It's like something really weird.
Right,
Dudist. Oh, a Dudist monk. He's a Dudist monk, is what he is, and he can also marry you. So that's cool.
It sounds like there's paperwork involved. I was going to ask, like, what sort of obligations do you have if you get ordained? And now I don't want to be involved.
The website said, when does your ordination expire? They had like a whole Q&A thing, and it said it doesn't, but if you want your name off our rolls, just email us and we'll take it off. And I was like, oh,
interesting.
that's different than my experience. That's nice. Oops.
You just have to unsubscribe from the newsletter.
Email list, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they even have records.
Yeah.
Seems very undude like.
Makes me feeling better. They're in a filing cabinet that just water drips on it constantly. So I don't know. Who knows what's actually in there? But yeah, I don't know. Any closing thoughts on Lebowski?
Yes.
Go for it.
I don't like any of the theories. I want this movie to be what it is without any of that extra stuff.
Yeah.
That's
down
what
for
it
that.
is for me.
Sure. Very dutiful.
Well, you can't, Gwen. You gotta pick one.
This aggression will not stand.
That's what the movie people will tell you. You have to pick one.
Oh, fuck them. I'm not a new movie person.
Yeah, we know. You're a book person. It's not how books... I mean, that's not how movies work, Gwen. It's not books where it's all just face value.
That's what I hate about
fighting
books.
words.
No nuance.
Zero of it.
Everything's black and white.
Over-explained hogwash.
I do want to let you guys know, sometime next month, I can't remember the exact date, but there is an annual Big Lebowski festival in Ogden, Utah, where you can just go drink White Russians and go to a screening with a bunch of other drunk people, which
Do you watch
seems like it'd be a pretty good time.
log jamming? Is that what they watch?
Yep.
Bunch of dudes all drinking together, watching log jamming.
Love it. But yeah, I haven't been, but I really want to go.
I was gonna just bring up the fact that this movie feels like one of those movies that has stayed in our collective consciousness a lot more than a lot of other movies, I think. And maybe it's like an age thing. I don't know, like if this movie is going to have staying power, kind of like what we already talked about, like for our kids. When they watch this movie, like, is it going to have the same sort of impact, cultural impact on them? Like, but it feels like this movie, for as like ethereal as like the purpose or whatever doesn't have, I don't know. It's stuck around a lot. Like, this is a movie that a lot of people talk about, reference, and which is interesting because it doesn't have like a really strong takeaway that you leave thinking like, this is what this means to me. It's just like this feeling that it evokes that has really stuck around a lot.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy for what the movie actually is.
Yeah.
So yeah, like a big old dude festival or whatever, and the get ordained as a dudist, and like you hear references this all the time. So yeah.
Well, and I wonder too, like, is that, is the idea of having the Saddam Hussein and George Bush stuff there to kind of aid in that feeling of like, so much of this shit doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, wars are just happening at the whims of people. There's so much that's out of our control. None of it really matters. Why don't we just be Walter and go and like take matters into our own hands? You know what I mean? Like, I think that there's so much of that, like even just that underlying sentiment and feeling of like maybe being hopeless on the grander scheme of things. I think is something that will probably resonate with people for a long time, I imagine. Yeah. And obviously our generation has that I'm sure very similar like sentiments that people had in the early 90s when the Gulf War was started. I don't remember that, but obviously with, not to bring 9/11 up again and to further bolster this theory that the Coen brothers were involved. No, but like that idea, that it just happened again, 10 or 11 years later, and it's another war that is over now, but is it? Well, it'll never fucking end. Like, I don't know. It's like this new, there's no more wars. There's just a war that started and is just going on forever.
Feels very Shakespearean. Like,
yeah,
you got the father who maybe wasn't the most successful against his enemy, and then his son comes to avenge him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of which, we got the announcement that they're doing. We were talking about. You brought up how Macbeth sucks last podcast.
I wouldn't say it sucks.
I don't think it was overrated.
I think it's structurally it's not the most it's not the best structured Shakespeare play. I'll say.
But we have a Coen brother Macbeth movie coming out,
which I was really disappointed because I didn't look too much into it. I just read the comments underneath it, and this person was being sarcastic, but I didn't read it. I thought they were 100% serious that it was based in a Pennsylvania fast food establishment.
I
was like, yes. And then I saw
sounds amazing.
Then I saw it was like a period piece. Like fuck.
I will say the last time I saw a Macbeth adaptation, which was that one with fucking oh my god, what's his name? Magneto, Michael Fassbender, and Marion Cotillard. I was extremely disappointed. It was bad.
I've heard you say bad things about it.
And then that guy went and directed the Assassin's Creed movie. Here's the thing. I feel like I might be wrong about that movie, but I just thought it was so fucking boring. And I don't know. This one looks pretty intriguing.
The story's not necessarily boring, but it kind of is.
No, but I think the thing about Macbeth when it's done poorly is because they don't understand most of the action takes place in the first 20 or 30 minutes of that play. The murder of the king comes very early, and if that's what a production is built around, then they've missed a lot of the thrust.
Did they put that like the climax of the film?
No, well, no. I'm just saying, like, I'm saying I've seen a lot of productions of Macbeth, and those are the scenes that people remember. So when they get produced by not professional theater companies, then what you're going to see is like a lot of love goes into those scenes. And then they're like, and then there's a lot of talking, and it's like, oh fuck me. And I'm not that movie didn't do that. That movie was just really far up its own ass. I feel like as far as. Anyways,
I know we're not talking about Macbeth, but I think that's the strength of Throne of Blood.
Sure.
Is that the parts after that are just as intriguing. As
Anyways, I'm very excited for that movie. It looks great. I don't know if you've seen the quote from like the Deadline interview with Joel Coen that's been going around. That just starts with the interviewer going, "Now I'm no Shakespearean scholar, but I actually looked up when Macbeth died, and he was 52 years old, and Denzel Washington is 66." And Joel Coen's one-word response to that was, "Interesting." So that fucking interview is what a ridiculous. Oh my god!
Did that happen to be an MBA interviewer? It's about the quality of questions we're getting.
Oh man. Anyways,
how many Coen Brothers movies have you seen?
Yeah. Anyways,
the actual interviewer was sick, and that guy was a sub.
Anyways, great. Any other closing thoughts on Big Lebowski now that we've talked about Macbeth?
Hey, we got a Spielberg West Side Story coming out too. So if we want to keep going with the Shakespearean thing, we can talk about that for a while.
That's true. Oh man. Oh man. The state of the movie musical right now. I don't know if you guys followed the Dear Evan Hansen stuff at all, or know what Dear Evan Hansen is.
I know what it is.
I've seen that there is a controversy.
Oh
but
gee.
I
Oh,
Is there a
just-
controversy?
Oh my god.
I have
Okay.
not had the energy.
Let me just bring you up to speed really quick. So Dear Evan Hansen was a huge hit on Broadway. Ben Platt originated the role on Broadway. He was in like Pitch Perfect. He's been in a few other movies. I'm trying to think of like what else he's been in. Anyway, he's like the nerdy magic kid in Pitch Perfect. So he originated the role. They've made this movie. His dad was a producer on it. He is now playing that same role that he did on Broadway. Only thing is, he's like 30 years old playing a 17-year-old character, and it's very obvious, like painfully obvious. Like I saw it posted, someone had posted a screenshot, and it's like him like crying and his like veins are bulging out of his neck. And it's like that feeling when you have to miss your best friend in third period because you have to go get your regular prostate exam. And it was pretty good. But man, yeah, the reviews for that, if you want to read some brutal prose, go read people tearing apart Dear Evan Hansen, because it's pretty good. But yeah.
Yeah, I saw the trailer. I'm like, is this a LDS film? This looks like shit.
Well, here's the thing. So I had not heard anything. I had not seen it, but my girlfriend really likes the music and had seen the show. And so she was explaining the plot to me, and I was like, this is the plot to a Bobcat Goldthwait movie starring Robin Williams called World's Greatest Dad. Because in World's Greatest Dad, spoiler alert for the first act of World's Greatest Dad, his son dies of autoerotic asphyxiation, and he like instead takes him and hangs him in his closet to make it look like he committed suicide. And he writes this like beautiful suicide note that everyone then reads and is like, oh my god, this was such a great kid. And he's like, oh yeah, he had a whole journal full of that stuff. And he starts writing this journal of his dead son, who was a piece of shit. Like, it's Junie Cortez from fucking Spy Kids, and he's just a real piece of shit for the whole first 20 minutes of the movie. And then he dies, and the whole rest of the movie is like Robin Williams keeping up this lie that he wasn't a piece of shit. And that's essentially, I guess, what Dear Evan Hansen is. But you don't get to see Robin Williams' dick, so I don't really see the appeal. I don't know. There's not a whole lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway,
why
Stick around for recommendations.
Wait. Why is Junie terrible?
oh, he's just a bad person.
Oh, the actor is?
No. In the movie, the character. Sorry, not the actor. The kid in the movie is just a real irredeemable piece of shit. He dies masturbating to a photo that he took of under the table of his dad's date. He's just a real bad kid. I don't know.
But the character Junie Cortez is not terrible.
No.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying.
No, sorry,
I was
sorry.
What?
No.
What the fuck?
No, his character in World's Greatest Dad is
Got it.
written as an irredeemable piece of shit.
Got it.
That's part of the plot, not a commentary on the actor or his work in Spy Kids.
Yeah, let's hear your opinions on
Tier's
Spy
been
Kids.
so obsessed with Spy Kids, and I thought Junie was so cute. I'm so
man.
confused.
So do you just have Floop is Madman, help us save us stuck in your
Yep.
head?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
Good for you. Man, maybe we should watch all the Spy Kids movies.
Let's watch all of Robert Rodriguez films.
Awesome.
Interjecting adult, child versions and like do that pattern.
Oh no, yeah. Oh.
So that's how he filmed them.
Yeah. Oh boy. Anyways, that's it for us. For now, if you want to talk to us about Coen Brothers or whatever, just fucking email us at rewatchersonpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RewatchersPod, and we will be back after a short break to talk about some other stuff that we watched, read, listened to, all that good stuff. So stay with us. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the recommendation section of our podcast where we talk about some other stuff that we've been reading, watching, playing, listening to, all that good stuff. Gwen, what did you have for us this week?
I finished... what is it called? Rise of Endymion, which is the fourth in the Hyperion Cantos. And it just hinged... The plot hinged too much around the Fifth Element bullshit, and I kind of lost it at the end.
Oh,
So
man.
it was disappointing.
I love to hear someone else call it Fifth Element bullshit because people fucking love that.
Like,
Wait.
I don't want it in my sci-fi.
Is this just Deus Ex Machina? Is that
No,
what
it's...
fifth? What
Wait,
is
is it
Fifth
actually
Element
referencing
bullshit?
the movie Fifth Element?
No,
or-
but it's like
Damn it.
it's like there's this other plane, and this is how you do faster than light travel is by accessing this plane. And it turns out that
okay.
you access this plane with love, and it's made
It
with
is Fifth
love,
Element bullshit.
and it's just like, if it had been a fantasy book, it would have been great, and I would have loved it. But it was in the middle of my sci-fi book, and I didn't love it right
Wait,
there.
it was legitimately love gets you into the hyperspace travel?
Not quite in those words, but it's, yeah, pretty much.
What kind of J.K. Rowling bullshit is this?
Yeah. So, like, I had positive feelings at the end of the book, but, like, not enough to really recommend anything past the second book in the Hyperion Cantos. And, like, you get some answers to some stuff that's happened throughout the series that's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Was this the last one? that you
This
just
was the
finished?
last
Oh,
one,
okay.
yeah. So, anyways,
Bummer.
yeah. Spent a lot of time on that for that disappointing end. Anyways, I've been listening to Dungeons and Daddies.
Ah, damn it, I haven't yet.
Oh man, I like wanted to talk about it again this week because
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
I'm having such a fantastic time, and I usually listen to stuff while I fall asleep to, keep the anxiety down so I can sleep. And I've learned I can't do that with this podcast because I wake Justin up just snorting to myself. Lots of laughing out loud. The dad joke mechanic is my favorite.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I've had to look up several things to be in on the jokes, and I've just got a list of 3 I'm going to pull up real fast. Oh, David Boreanaz.
Okay, yeah.
Had no idea who that was, and I needed to understand why we wanted him in our mouth. So I had to go look at who that was. I had to look up DILFs of Disneyland. I looked through a few and was like, not my DILFs.
Is that like a real account?
It is a real account.
Is it on Instagram?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. One of the every episode of Dungeons and Daddies starts with them introducing their characters and then telling you a daddy fact about their characters that gives you more insight. And one of them is that Daryl, who's one of the dads, was once tagged in the DILFs of Disneyland, or he was on the DILFs of Disneyland account, only to realize he wasn't the actual DILF in the photo. He was just in the background. So he was excited for a moment and then realized.
And
So-
he found out because the women at the party were laughing because his dad is a little fat.
Oh, yeah. Poor Daryl.
But the last thing I've had to look up was the Cheezoid sketch. Have you watched
yes,
it?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that was a thing. So yeah, I'm having a good time. I think I'm on episode 17.
Okay,
and
great.
I'm like actually a little bit invested in the plot. Like,
Yeah.
is Ron gonna connect with his stepson?
Yeah, no, there's like moments in this show that I have had like very genuine and intense emotional reactions to it, and it's really great. They're really great improvisers, and they all like
They're so fast. They're
Yeah.
so fast.
and all the characters are so strong too.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just it's wonderful. I love it so much.
This might be the best job of selling something like on this podcast. Like I want to listen to this so bad now.
Dude, it's
you
great.
absolutely should. It is a good time.
Yeah. I just recently I'm in like episode 48, I think, and I just joined the Patreon, and I'm like realizing I'm getting close to the end of recorded. I think they're at like 67 or 68 or something. And so now I've started listening on the Patreon. They do like basically an episode, like just a roundtable discussion about every episode. So now I'm listening to every single one of those to stave off the coming end. But yeah, it's so good. Have you met Peyton yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I love Peyton.
Okay, great. Peyton is the best.
I wish I could do his voice. He's amazing.
I can't do it, but man, he's great. Okay.
I'm on an episode
I think you're on 9 now.
9 or 10, I
Okay.
think. That was going to be my recommendation as well
Oh,
tonight
nice.
because but Gwen's basically covered everything already, so
It's so good.
it's really good.
I just love him so much. Great.
That's it for
Anything
me.
else? Okay. Tyler, what did you have for us?
I don't have a ton. Although I will say that reminded me of the J.K. Rowling thing. Like I've been watching Harry Potter to fall asleep lately because I need something that I know really well that I can just not pay attention, but also have noise in the background.
Yeah.
And I've come to the realization that, J.K. Rowling's kind of not good at writing.
World building kind of sucks.
Like, there's so many things that I was like, wait a fucking second. Like, as I'm like trying to fall asleep. And it got me angry. I was like, I've been duped. I liked Harry Potter. I think there's things that she is good at in writing, but
You could still like it even if it's bad.
yeah, oh yeah. And I think that
Mitchell is losing his mind right now.
and there's just a lot of sloppy shit, and also just like, I don't know, just some things that make me just angry. That like, and then the book 8 comes into play, and you're like, what the fuck? How was this sanctioned? You took the worst parts of Anyway, fuck it. Love some of those characters. I love them. Okay, so then I just kind of played video games this week. I played Kena, Bridge of Spirits, which is a new release on the PlayStation 5, 4, and the PC. It is a game made, so it's an indie game, question mark? It is made by 15 people, which is astonishing when you play it, and you're like, wow. It's made by a company who is an animation company. They did a lot of animated shorts, and then they were just like, hey, why don't we try making a video game? So this is their first video game. In some ways it shows. It's not perfect, but it is beautiful. The art direction in it is stunning. It takes a lot of inspiration from the latest God of War game, I feel like, but really watered down. Like, I don't want to sell it as something it's not. And Zelda, I would say, like, are its two biggest inspirations. They did do a Zelda animation before this, the Majora's Mask animation. That's really good if you haven't seen it. Yeah, it's just beautiful. It's fun. There's some really challenging boss battles in it. Some of the challenge in it does come down to like the animation's really good, but it's also I don't know if they're the right animation choices for it to look pretty, but not necessarily for fluidity and gameplay. So it's the best way I can describe it is I would give it a 7 out of 10, but it's the only game I can think of that's a 7 out of 10 that is on the verge of being a 10 out of 10. Like,
Oh, interesting.
It's just every category has something just slightly off-putting about it that keeps it from being incredible.
But you can put hats on those little guys.
Dude, I love
That's
putting
like-
hats on those little guys. Anytime I get a new hat, that is something that is both a great thing, but also like kind of a bummer. Is like there's treasure chests just like Zelda and a lot of other games. The rewards for those treasure chests they don't give you that dopamine rush, like they're not rewarding enough to feel exciting every time you get to one or find one. It's just kind of like, okay, here's this. And that does come from it being a small studio. That it's a pretty big game for 15 people to make, and for how well it's put together, it's very impressive. So it does have me very excited for this company's future. I hope that someone puts more money behind them and that they're able to create something that can really achieve what their potential is. Get some people in there that know how to do like NPCs, because there's like pretty much no good NPCs in this game. They're all just stationary voice boxes. Anyway, I've talked too much about that. It's good. Kena, Bridge of Spirits. And then I also have been playing the Diablo 2 remaster as someone who has never played a Diablo game before. So that is interesting. It's a bit different than I thought it was going to be. Sure. I mean, I knew it was an isometric, just like slashing spell slotty type thing. I have played a Diablo-like before that's a complete rip-off, which is the Lord of the Rings Game Boy Advance game, which is just Diablo, and I remember loving it. And yeah, so that's that's there. It's I wasn't expecting the whole like when you save and quit, it just starts you over type of thing.
Yeah.
So that kind of pissed me off. And so it's taken me a while to get used to it. And when I first started, honestly, I was like, I don't know if this is for me, but I haven't stopped playing. So I've beaten the first act, and I assume that I guess there's only one other Diablo game other than that after that, right? They haven't made any others.
After
far.
two.
And so
Yeah, they're working on 4 right now, but
I've heard there's some
every time I
troubles
see
with that.
stuff about it, it feels 4 more years away.
Yeah.
So
It's a Blizzard game right
Yeah.
now, so that's basically
Yeah.
everything.
for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's weird. I was not expecting it to be such a casual experience. It feels like a very casual game that I have already picked up when I like don't have a lot of time, maybe, or I don't want to really focus on anything and just kind of go through. And it's weirdly therapeutic in that way.
Yeah.
I got to the second area though, and I went the wrong direction apparently, and I got my ass kicked. I didn't die once in the whole first act, and then all of a sudden I go into the sewers and get fucked immediately.
Yeah. I feel like that's the story of Diablo, is just like casually placing skill points where you want to, picking up just weapons that are a little bit better and getting slightly more powerful. And then you get to an area where you're like just totally fucked. And you're like, oh, I guess if I go back and just move a couple things around, oh, now I'm okay again. And I can like continue on through this area. But yeah, it's very much
so. Yeah, I'll keep you updated. I will keep the podcast updated when I get further along in both of them. I haven't beat Kana yet, but I'm pretty far along in that.
Yeah. I'm interested to hear more about what you think about Diablo, because I've also been playing that. And I played like quite a bit of Diablo 2 back in the day. So I'm getting like this extreme dopamine bump whenever I press G on my keyboard and it just changes to old Diablo just immediately. Like it's kind of crazy. But yeah, it's really fun. I also there's an option to play like Diablo 2 without the expansion or with the expansion, and I had never played without the expansion, so I was like, I'll like play a character like through, and then I'll convert it to an expansion character and kind of like do that process and just kind of see what that's like. The biggest thing, I was like so turned around literally because the expansion turns the entire map 180 degrees. So like in the first town, it's like entirely fenced in. There's one exit.
And you go up instead of down?
And you go up instead of down. Exactly. So I was like, where the fuck is the bridge? I was like, have I forgotten this much about Diablo? And then I like went out and I was like, it feels bad. Like it feels like really weird. But yeah, anyways.
I mean, I don't know how much. What's the big difference? Is there much of a difference than playing offline and online? As far as. Because it's weirdly restrictive. If you start a character offline, you can't play with them online, from my understanding.
Yeah, I can't remember if you convert it to online. I know I got it on my PC and my Switch because I'm a dumbass, and I just like. It's got cross progression, which is like. It feels really good to me because I'm like, I can do this anywhere. But like, I don't know exactly. I can't remember what those restrictions are. Also, sometimes in the past week, good luck creating an online character because you just bounce off the servers for
I've just been doing an offline one.
That's kind of what I had to end up doing. But anyways, I like it so far. I mean, it looks good. It runs real well. And like I said, just occasionally switching back to the old graphics is like real satisfying to me. Anyways, good game. What else did you have?
That's it for me. I'm done.
Okay. Justin, we kind of covered you Dungeons and Daddies, or
yeah. So Dungeons and Daddies definitely top recommendation for the week. I had just a couple other things. It's funny that you're talking about J.K. Rowling because I was going to mention my experience. We started reading Harry Potter as a family to our kids since they're old enough now to kind of actually get what's going on. And it's been a really good time to be back in the books. So, and as your experience, like to go along with that, I'm reading through this and every once in a while I'll stop and like comment to Gwen, like, talk about like, wait a sec, something isn't right here. This doesn't make any sense. What about this? Which is stuff I never picked up on when I was a kid. So kind of interesting going back as an adult, rereading books that I haven't read in forever. But it's a lot of fun for the kids, which is a good time. And along with that, reliving past experiences, my son has been super into Zelda lately, which is great. And we have been playing Wind Waker, the HD remake. And that's also a really good time. But holy shit, I did not realize how frustrating old Zelda games can be. Because I haven't played them in forever. The last Zelda game I played was Breath of the Wild when that came out, and that has some things that are frustrating too. But like Wind Waker, like if you're like running and jumping across a platform and you need like it's just far enough away that your character is going to like grab the ledge instead of like land on the platform. Like if you're not lined up exactly to where you're running straight onto that thing and he makes the jump, like if it's just at an angle ever so slightly, you're not going to make the jump. You're just going to fall off of it because the interaction between the ledges and the grab animation and everything just don't work unless you're 90 degrees on with that ledge. So
I forgot that was even a thing in Wind Waker. I thought
Yeah.
it was just like Ocarina where you had to just jump to
Nope.
it.
Yeah, no, it's there's that like they did some things with like the menu navigation on the Wii U tablet that are nicer than playing it on a controller back in the day, which I appreciate. But it's still really clunky. Yeah, it's a dated game. I mean, it came out in like 2000 and I don't know,
One?
yeah, 2001, I think.
Jeez, holy shit.
It's old, but it's still like it still has that old Zelda magic, and my kids are loving playing along. And like I've been doing this thing lately, probably out of this longing in my heart to actually play like a D&D campaign sometime where I'm doing voices with all of the things that I'm reading. So like doing Harry Potter, and I'm trying to get like character voices and stuff. And so like I read the text when we're playing Zelda with character voices, which is a lot of fun too, which I think has been a lot of fun for the kids too. So that's, I don't know how, I mean, I recommend playing old things with kids if you have them.
If you don't have them, just go to the playground. Take one. No one frowns on that. We don't judge.
Yeah. Great. I just have a couple of recommendations. I have been watching a show. It just got a second season on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum. And I can't remember. I feel like
Is it a
it may
reality
have been
show?
something. Yeah, may have been something that Mitchell recommended at some point. I don't know. I feel like someone may have recommended it on the show before, but I had kind of forgotten about it. But it's really good. It's an Australian documentary, basically about you know, like the way Australians say it. Basically about people in their 20s who are on the spectrum, and just about them trying to date and find love. And it's really, really heartwarming and really good, and kind of eye-opening to a lot of that. If you aren't super familiar with autism spectrum disorder, it's a really pretty good primer, and kind of like goes through a lot of the very general things that people with autism go through. And some of my favorite people in the world. There's a guy named Michael on that show, and I am just get this guy a fucking girlfriend. Like he deserves it. But it's just really, really great. And yeah, check it out. I think there's like 11 episodes altogether in these two seasons, and it's really good. I also watched the first episode of Foundation, which is an Apple Plus adaptation of Asimov's Foundation. Very different from the books. So a review described it, I think, better than I could, as less of an adaptation, more of a remix of ideas and stuff of Foundation. I'm not going to say I'm in love with the show yet. I think there's only one episode out.
I had no idea it was that close. Like, I had no idea it was coming out so soon.
Yeah. So it's I think episodes are coming out every Friday now. I will say so far, like, I'm intrigued by it. I'm really interested to see what they do with it. And there's some really fucking visually stunning shit that they've done already. Just some of the shots. It's kind of like when I watched Raised by Wolves. It was kind of that thing of where I watched that first episode. I was like, oh, holy shit, this is like way different than I thought it would be. And there's a lot more money in this than I thought there would be. But it looks really interesting. So I'm going to keep watching it. If you're interested in sci-fi at all, I'd give it a shot and just see how you're feeling after the first episode. Like I said, the writing isn't something that like I would be like, oh man, it's really good. It's David S. Goyer, who I think is good, and I like the Batmans that he wrote. But yeah, check it out. Even just maybe go on and look at some like real high res screen grabs from Foundation, because holy shit, it's really good. But yeah, that's all I had to recommend this week, I think. So we will go ahead and end there. We will be watching. I don't think I announced what we're watching next at the end of the first part, but we're going to be watching No Country for Old Men next. We'll be back in a couple weeks with that. So go watch some more Coen Brothers, and we'll chat about it then. But you have been here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
see you later, babies.
Where's my money, Lebowski?